Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Kapke. This is my podcast, Ambient 3D Animations. And this episode is a little bit of a choose your own adventure moment because there's two episodes that came out today. One is on how to set up your nodes inside of Redshift with our Substance 3D Painter textures. This episode is how to set up your nodes inside of Unreal Engine with your Substance 3D Painter textures. In the last few episodes, we painted a cheesecake, showed how to import an FBX into Substance 3D Painter and get that ready inside of Cinema 4D. We've also gone through the process of how to export out your textures. We went through all the export settings so that you can do it inside of any render, and now we get to do the fun part of importing them into the render of your choice. So let's go ahead and jump into Unreal Engine. If you'd like to learn Redshift, you can check out that episode. I'll leave it in the description below. I really appreciate all the likes and subscribes because that really helps me continue teaching and having these videos for all of you. Here we are inside of Substance 3D Painter. You can see that within here, in my outliner, I did add in some lighting. And in our content drawer, we'll need to create a new folder actually within here. So I'll hit the plus button here for add. We'll add in a folder and name it. And now that we have our folder open, we can double click on it and import. So I'll need to go to my FBX and open this. I don't need to import materials at this time, so I have import materials turned off. I'm going to press import. And now you'll see that we have all of these in here and they're all selected. If they aren't all selected, you can hold shift and click on all of them. And while having all those selected, if you drag and drop into your scene, you'll drop them in all at once. And you'll see your move, rotate, and scale buttons here. If you put your mouse over it, you'll see R is the hotkey for scale. So I'll go ahead and scale this up and move it up, just so that it's easier for us to work with in here. If I'd like these all to be within a folder inside of our outliner, I can hit the plus button here with the folder icon. And I'll type that in there. You'll see that we have everything within our folder. If I turn it on and off with this I button, you can see that we can toggle its visibility and see that everything's in there. I'm going to need another folder in here. And this folder is going to be called our Unreal Engine Pumpkin Spice Cheesecake Texture. And I can go ahead and click on this. You'll notice that I don't use spaces while I'm naming, because this works best for Unreal Engine. Once we have all of that, we'll need to go ahead and import. I'll need the textures we had created from the last episode, specifically for Unreal Engine. So I'll go ahead and click on this folder here. You'll see that we have 4. I'll select all of those and hit open. And now you'll see that they populate. What we'll need is a material now to put these textures within. So we'll need to hit the plus button again, choose material, name our material. So there we go, we have our material in here. I'll double click on this. If I hit the R button, I can move around in here, which is helpful. I can use the scroll button to move in and out. And I'll need a few new nodes in here. So let's look for texture. And this texture sample is what we need. Now we need 4 of these because we have 4 textures. So I'll hit copy and paste. So Control C, Control V. If you're on a Mac, Command C, Command V. We're going to need 4. So now we're all set up in terms of that. If we click on one of these, you'll see we can see information for it over here on the left. And what we're going to need today is this. So under None, we're going to select the correct texture that we need. Now I like to start with the base color, so we're going to start with this and drag and drop it over here. Now you may notice that the color looks a little bit light, so we're actually going to need an additional node. But before I do that, I want to show you a fun trick. And that's if you open up your content drawer. I'm going to move this up a little bit so we can see both on one screen. And we'll go back to where our meshes were. If I click a mesh, and then in here, hit this little button here that looks like a brick, and then I hit the F button to zoom in close on it, you can see a preview of your texture on a part of your model. So that's really helpful, and you'll see that the colors look really washed out. We're going to need an additional node, as I had mentioned, so we'll right-click, and we'll search for sRGB, and you'll see sRGB to Rec 709. The main difference between sRGB and Rec 709 is the gamma. Rec 709 is used more in film, and it has greater contrast. So now you'll see that corrects the colors because we were exporting out for Rec 709 inside of Substance Painter. So that's why it's important to make sure that your color space is working with your textures so that everything looks right when you put it all together. So now we're on to our next node. And you'll see that next in line is metallic. So that's how metallic your texture is. We did the color. Metallic really comes into play more if you have something that's metal inside of your model and gives it those metallic reflections, those metal reflections. Like if your model had aluminum or if it had stainless steel or something like that, this would come into play a little bit more. Although we don't need that for a cheesecake, I'm going to add it in anyway so that you know how to do it yourself. So I'm going to click on this button or this material, and you'll notice something interesting about it. So in the name, it says occlusion roughness metallic. So that means that we're going to be using the RGB values of this. The first one is ambient occlusion, the second one is roughness, and the third is metallic. So R, ambient occlusion, G, roughness, B, metallic. So I'll go ahead and click that here. But if you wanted to add that in, that would plug into here. So you drag and drop the R to the ambient occlusion. I guess we can for now. G would go to roughness, and B would go to metallic. And you can see a preview in here. We can hit save to update it in Unreal Engine, the renderer itself. But you can see that the textures here are a little bit different for Unreal Engine because they're fitting 3 textures in one map, which is really a great way to save memory, actually. Let's see what we're missing. We have a normal map and we have emissive. So let's go ahead and click on our normal map. And here we'll need to drag this into normal. And we're using DirectX normal maps because that's what's accepted by Unreal Engine. Very important to remember. Otherwise, things are going to look a little weird in here. And I'll leave a link to an episode about how to create your own normal maps and how to fix them in case if you have an OpenGL and you need a DirectX. So this one down here, this is more of just to communicate the process because this texture is an emissive one. And you can see it's black because we don't actually have an emissive purpose for this cheesecake. It doesn't really have any emissive properties. But if you had something that glowed, you'd see some color here that would be representing that emissive glowing texture. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit to make this easier to do. But we'd plug that into the emissive color. And that's basically how you would set up the textures for Unreal Engine in here. Now I'm going to show you how to apply it to your model. So I'll move that off to the side. And you'll notice that as we click on these, under materials, you'll see this here. And this is just the default here, but we're going to need to change that. And all of this geometry here uses the same texture or the same material, rather. So with all of those selected, I'm going to open up our drawer here, grab our material and drag and drop this in here. And now you can see our cheesecake is in fact rendering, and that's all very, very exciting. Of course, you can experiment some more with the lighting to get it to look just the way you'd like it to. But that's the basics of how you could go about importing your texture from Substance 3D Painter into Unreal Engine. And thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. If you found this helpful, please hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate all of you when you do that. If you would like to check out the Redshift episode or the rest of this course, I'll leave a link to it below. And thank you so much. It means so much to me. And I'll see you here next time on Ambient 3D Animations.